Boom! Slightly faster transition. Welcome to Dice Jailers, everybody.
Yes.
I am Jordan.
Hi, I'm Bjorn.
Remember your name, bud.
I did. I just said it. I said I was Bjorn. Like, your connection is futzing me out, man.
I mean, my connection, as we know from last week, is always on point.
I know,
Yikes.
right?
But
It's
we're
so
trying
on
a
point,
new,
it just might stab you.
trying a new setup, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully, it won't have all the disconnects and crashes. Who knows?
Question mark?
Yep. But we'll see. So this week, we're gonna talk about how like D&D and tabletop role playing magic could affect real life, specifically in our our big shared love of professional sports. That's if only
They say magic isn't real.
if only my buddy Josh was here. He is a magician, but he's very busy because he's a very talented man and doing all the things all the time.
So am I. I'm a magician. I just pulled my thumb off.
That's just greater restoration.
Oh yeah.
So, but before we get into all the sportsy things,
Yeah.
what have you been up to this last week?
Man, this last week, not a ton, which has been good. Um, kind of beginning work on a cosplay thing. It's a little hush hush for right now. I'll get more into that once I know what's happening. So that's my teaser on that. But otherwise, just realize I'm kind of behind on my reading. So trying to rebuild my reading list, start doing that again, and working on cutting down some Shakespearean plays into 5-minute plays for finger puppets.
Did you just say finger puppets?
I did. I did.
What?
Yeah. So doing this thing called Plays by the Handful with a couple of friends of mine. And we're going to be cutting down full length plays into 5 minutes or less. And all the voices will be recorded. And we have one individual who recently realized her family has loads of finger puppets that she forgot about when she was a kid. And so we were talking and
What?
going, let's do plays with these. Let's do finger puppets because finger puppets are awesome. So we'll see what happens with that.
That's
So,
pretty
yeah,
dope.
finger puppets. What about you? What's been the haps?
I've been doing a bit of, as always, a bunch of trying to keep things clean and organized because
Sure.
I let it go for a day and then everything is a nightmare. Uh, I've also been I let a little bit of my hopeful come back into my existence,
Sure.
and by that I mean I'm starting to eat healthier and drink more water as we get. Hopefully, we're moving past and through all of coronavirus destroying everything, and I want to make sure that I'm back in pre-corona shape before shows start happening again.
That is fair. That is legit. I'm with you. I'm also trying to eat a little better. I don't need to have pizza 3 times a week, but I want to. Oh, do I want to?
It's so tasty, but as we are in the entertainment industry, there's if your look changes too much over an amount of time, that can drastically impact your casting. And
This is true.
like, heck, just growing my hair out and
Nope.
doing locks
No, I'm
has
with you.
completely
I don't have
changed
headshots
everything.
with all of this, so I need to get that done
Mm.
soon. Now that I'm just on the other side of 30, I got to think about how things are going with my body. So
Mm-hmm. Well, like, my last headshots, I think, are like my locks are half this length, so
Sure.
yeah, gotta update those. But yeah,
Photoshop.
it's
No, that wouldn't work.
absolutely not. You've seen all of our banner stuff. I'm awful at Photoshop.
I didn't mean you. I just meant in general.
But yeah, I also got my hands on a record player and a couple of my old records. So
Nice.
that's been nice just to hear the Sugar Hill Gang versus the Furious Five on record.
And
Uh,
then rocking out to a little Baby Shark.
Absolutely not. That will never sully the needle of my record player, sir.
Okay.
But
That's
yeah,
a, that's a
that's
new
what I've been
life
up to.
goal then.
Also, like just as of this afternoon, I'm doing a little bit of Zoom directing stuff that I don't know how much more I can say that I'm doing a thing because I haven't even gotten like the contracts and whatnot yet.
Sure.
But yeah, it'll be super dope, and there will be more information coming out about that. It won't be my face on it. I'll just be the one directing, which is going to be interesting to direct for Zoom because most of my effort in directing in the past has usually gone to more just staging and
Mhm.
letting the actors do what they do in the space that I've set up. So this will be interesting.
Very cool. Well, looking forward to see whatever it is, however it is.
Yeah, it's gonna be dope. I
But you,
assume.
but you said you wanted to talk about magic.
I did want to talk about magic.
Do you still want to talk about magic?
I don't know. I might just because of that. Just nope, no more stream. We're done. Never again. Just because Bjorn pulled his thumb off.
I did. I did.
But no, this topic came up from when we were talking during Sunday, texting back and forth as we
Mhm.
do when we watch football, and like just how like D&D and Pathfinder and tabletop role playing game Magic would affect things like professional sports.
So when we first started talking about that, one of the first things that came to mind with me was the spell Misty Step.
Mm-hmm.
Misty Step, you very quickly teleport 20 feet. So I was thinking about a running back.
Isn't it 30 feet?
Is it not? I think it's 20. Maybe I'm pretty
Hmm.
sure it's 20. I don't know. We're going to say it's 20 for the sake of this discussion. I think it's 20. So we're able to teleport these 20 feet. And if it is 30, then that even further compounds what I'm about to point out. So you have a running back who has a level in wizard or any spellcaster for some reason, they can misty step. So here's what I'm wondering. They get the handoff, they get to the line of scrimmage, they misty step. If it's 20 feet, that's almost 7 yards right there.
Hmm.
Does that count as an actual game though? Because now the ball teleported and it wasn't actually advanced across that distance. Like, how does that come in with the rule book? Because I really wonder on offense, how does that affect for football? Because if that was allowed,
Hmm.
because this is where my next thing comes in, dimension door, which is you can go more than 100 yards with dimension door. A
Yeah.
kick returner could catch the ball, dimension door to the
Just.
opposite end zone. Would that be a touchdown? Because would you rule they actually advanced the ball or just teleported it?
I mean, I know if it were me running things and being the commissioner of the NFL, which would be super dope, and a lot of things would change pretty quickly. Um,
Yes, yes, they would.
but like if teleportation magic was even allowed at all,
Mhm.
I would put in that like you have to move you have to move without teleporting for at least 5 yards for that gain to be effective. So that
Now,
way it's a gamble.
okay, so here's my thought though. What if a ball carrier could not teleport, but other players could? Like, think about what that could do for like a defensive back,
Oh, oh, that's interception city, baby.
right? Right? I mean, as a quarterback, would you ever want to pass the ball? And that's the thing where, like, could you find a way to, I don't know, create a mirror image of the ball?
Oh, just
So
imagine the amazing things that Russell Wilson could do if he could cast like Invoke Duplicity.
Exactly. Or uh it's blur
Yeah,
or mirror image, those things.
and like just all of the different dodges and jukes and just like and swoop just real quick just off of blur because that's like you've already got a mischance with blur and then
Exactly.
naturally as a person you already have a mischance because he's Russell Wilson.
He is Russell Wilson.
Like you could because of all the work he has to put in because the offensive line is not always the best at keeping the defenders out of the backfield. uh
I think the offensive line is about 2 or 3 weeks from calling you and me to step in. Like that's how far down the depth chart they've got.
that's very true. Like everybody's hurt and out, and
And
that's
not good.
also thinking of injuries. They wouldn't really be a thing.
That's true. You would have things like cure wounds and healing word and thing like that.
Like you have like, and obviously because so many of the rules in pick a different sport, like like in basketball, for example,
Hmm.
you have torn ACLs all the time.
Sure, sure.
And so rather than that being like almost a season ending injury, depending on when it happens, that's
Vascular
just
degeneration.
you're maybe out for the quarter, you know?
So now you brought up basketball. I'm going to go back to my teleporting thing. Misty step, is that traveling? You didn't dribble.
I would call Misty Step traveling,
Hmm?
but also I would call a lot of things that the NBA already allows as traveling still.
Oh, I know. Hey, man, hey, all you got to do is go back and watch any Michael Jordan highlights, and you can watch traveling all day, every
Hmm.
day.
Like
23, I believe, was the number of steps he took per play.
sometimes, yes. And
My
like
personal opinion.
it I no, you're not wrong. Like other star players, LeBron, uh, the
Superstar rules have always been in
yeah,
effect. Yes.
superstar
Um,
rules have always been a thing.
I know how lame this makes me to some people, but the style of basketball I like. I really do love just that low scoring, old school defensive fundamental stuff. There's a reason I enjoyed the Spurs.
Yeah, well, and that's because they didn't the Spurs like their superstar years never relied on like, yep, we've got this one star gonna do all that dope stuff. It was like, no, we are going to pass the ball around and confuse you on
Yep.
defense.
Yep. And
Uh,
it's also why I'm such a big fan of my and your four-time WNBA champions, the Seattle Storm. 4 times.
Shout out to Sue Bird.
If on the off chance, if anybody knows Sue Bird and she wants to be on the stream for 2 seconds just so we can say we talked to her, just
I would give her our entire show.
yeah,
She's phenomenal.
I understand that, but I think we're only worth maybe 2 seconds of her time.
Also, yes, that is
Yeah,
fair.
like
That is that.
I'm just being
Yeah,
reasonable. I'm just
no,
being
that's
reasonable. If there is
that,
a Mount Rushmore of Seattle sports, her name has to be in the conversation.
oh 100%.
Absolutely has to be. One of my favorite athletes for Seattle sports.
She's so phenomenal, and she's an amazing person from what we've
She is.
seen in like interviews and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, yo, Sue Bird, shout out.
No, she's intelligent. She's classy. She's just kind of all around amazingness.
And even if like magic were real and implemented in professional sports, she would not need it to play that well.
No, everyone
Like,
else would need it to keep up with her.
absolutely. Which my one of my favorite things thinking about magic and basketball,
Yeah.
depending on how you play in your tabletop role playing games, there's a lot of different thoughts behind if mage hand as a spell, if that hand actually is visible or not.
Okay.
Because I've seen it, regardless of what the official rules are, I've seen a lot of DMs go back and forth on like, is it visible? Is it not? If is it invisible only if you're an arcane trickster? Like I've seen a lot of things because it can be fun to just like have an actual incorporeal hand just move things for you.
Yeah.
And so if it is invisible, how much goaltending would happen?
I mean, I think you would actually have ways of ruling the goaltending for the most part,
Yeah.
because you would see it take this odd deflection. I think
Mhm.
because if we're operating under the basis that magic exists and can now influence the game itself, they're going to have like detect invisibility and detect magic spells
Yeah.
around the rim. Now, that said, how many more block shots are you going to have with a mage hand being able to reach that extra distance?
Just thinking like Anthony Davis in his already huge reach
Yeah,
and then boost that with some mage hand.
exactly.
Oh,
I mean, all of a sudden, Steph Curry is not as much of a threat now, is he?
yeah, because those shots are going straight back in his face at that point.
Exactly. When he decides to pull up from, 47 and a half feet away.
God, that sniper distance.
Exactly, because the ball has to be on its downward arc for the goaltending to count.
Hmm.
So you've got a long distance before it hits there where you can just slap it back.
See, and then that brings me to the mind of like how often would in sports with this, how often would coaches like shift their line or like their lineup based on like actual physically tough competitors and really good casters.
True that. And the next thing, thinking about again, going with football, you could have a 12th player on the field if they knew invisibility.
I mean, it would have to be standard that all the referees have see invisibility
They'd have to.
constantly on
They would
them,
have to.
because that's otherwise we just descend into even more madness than injecting magic into it.
Now, what other spells like do you think would be like interesting for? Because I granted we're talking about things like invisibility or Misty Step, Dimension Door, we're talking about Mage Hand. I kind of want to get into the buffs and debuffs, right? Like like
Mm-hmm.
Bless. We already know you got to have a cleric on your sidelines in case there are
Absolutely.
injuries. Now, Bless only lasts a minute.
As
So
well as it only affects a certain number of people.
three people.
Yeah.
Now, to use Bless, I think in football it would be next to useless when you're going to have that for one play. Think about the amount of time between plays.
Yeah.
1 minute off the clock is not 1 minute real time. Now basketball, it's more useful. You got five players
Mhm.
on the court. You could have three of them blessed.
Yep. And you have like your like if we're looking at the Portland Trailblazers,
Yep.
for example, for basketball, I would immediately like, all right, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, they don't need that bless.
No, they already have it.
Like they're already two of the best players in the game. So then anytime you cast bless, it's just everybody except CJ and Dame Dollar.
No, no, because
Boom.
Damian Lillard rolls with advantage at all times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
So
like thinking about with rule changes,
mhm.
would you have because bless is a thing, would you then mandate like with timeouts how many blesses you have per game or per quarter?
Ooh. Well, I mean, think about that in with like spell slots though.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think each team, like I think we really have to kind of stick with the cleric spells for a lot of it, because you're talking about torn ACLs being like, oh, you're out a quarter as opposed to out the season.
Yeah.
You've got a cleric on the sidelines, so I think you're going to get a lot of those cleric type spells. I mean, what can
Mm-hmm.
boost. So I think you would have the equivalent of spell slots. You have so many per day, and then I wonder, getting into something like, say, Shield of Faith. And
Yeah.
the reason I bring that up is thinking about how armor class works in 5e, because
Mm-hmm.
a character wearing heavy plate armor and carrying a big heavy shield can have the same armor class as someone who's wearing studded leather armor but has a really high dexterity.
Right.
Now, we both know that the way that's interpreted is, well, one of them is warding off the blows with the armor, and one of them's dodging everything.
Yeah.
Where does something like Shield of Faith come in as a far, and I mean this in like for football, breaking tackles again,
Well, it's a magical deflection.
right?
So I would think it would go along the idea of like, because when you're playing and when you hit someone, really for a good like solid like head to head tackle, it's off of their strength to run through you versus your strength to run through them.
Sure.
And if you have some kind of extra magical barrier to like break through before, that's going to slow you down and make your tackle less effective.
There you go. There you go.
It's like that's how, I mean, as a DM, I always interpret
Okay.
like whenever someone has Shield of Faith up or casts like the shield spell as a reaction, if it still hits, I just narrate it as like breaking through that barrier and then still getting the hit.
But the more we think on it, like you look at how long a lot of the spells last, and then you think about the overall length of a game.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a factor would a lot of these things really be? Because we have to think about what level caster we think some of these
Yeah,
players would be. They're not going to be 20th level casters. If you're a
probably
20th
not.
level caster, you've spent basically your life dedicated to the arcane arts or
Mm-hmm.
the divine if you're a cleric, performance if you're a bard,
Which
etc.
means you definitely haven't spent a whole lot of time on your physical attributes.
Right. So if you're a professional athlete, odds are this is like a multi-class
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. So that's in where I wonder is how much would they actually care if this was affecting just one play here, one play there? It would be momentarily, momentarily, I don't know the word I'm looking for.
It,
It would
it would
be
be very short and very
multiple moments.
situational.
Yes, yeah, very situational. Thank you. That is the
Yeah,
exact word I was looking for.
and so because you'd have like you'd get down like say we're talking football,
Yep,
you'd have like those very very crucial 2 point conversions,
yep.
and then you have like you just take the time. You're like, all right, we're using our whatever slot of spell, haste.
And when do you save that counter spell?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, counterspell. My brain completely forgot that counterspell's a thing.
Counterspell or dispel magic? Because
Yeah.
again, you just brought up haste. So I don't care what sport it is. They, haste whatever key player. You dispel magic that they are now incapacitated for the next 6 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Which that's huge.
I mean, if you're talking football, that's an auto fumble right there,
Absolutely.
and that ball's going the other direction.
Yeah. Or it's going out of the back of the end zone.
Oh, DK Metcalf. At least Seattle won, and we know he'll never do that again.
Yeah. I mean, straight up, when that happened, I forgot that rule even existed.
Yeah, you thought they were going to get it at the one, didn't you?
Yeah, because I totally forgot that it's a touchback when it goes out of the back. So I was just like, oh, it's like a regular fumble out of bounds. So it'll be where the fumble happened, right? Nope. That rule exists pretty
Yeah.
much just for that situation.
Basically, yes. And as much as I wanted to hate the rule in that moment, on two different occasions in two different games, I think both were against the Rams, coincidentally enough.
Huh.
Earl Thomas forced a fumble at the
Mm-hmm.
one that would have been a touchdown had he not, that went out the end zone, turnover.
Yep.
Also, in a game against the Lions, Cam Chancellor forced a fumble on Calvin Johnson at the one.
Right.
They went out the back of the end zone. Seattle ball. Though KJ Wright technically did bat that ball, and that technically should have been a penalty, but it wasn't. Seattle won, so I don't care.
Sometimes you let penalties work for you.
Sometimes I care about the rules more than others.
Well, I mean, and thinking about so like you'd have to implement like a certain number of spell slots that could be used per game, kind of
Yeah,
like timeouts.
exactly.
Uh, but then also like with ruling, do you let casters that aren't on the field or on the court cast, or do you have to be in play to have your casting affect the game.
I think you got to be in play because otherwise you got to
Yeah,
check in on the field kind of thing. Like you got to be in
exactly.
play. And I think once you get to the playoffs, that has to happen in an anti-magic field, man.
Hmm.
Or at least your championship. Your championship's got to be anti-magic, right?
I mean,
Or
I don't know, because that depends on if there would be any coaches and organizations that would be okay with putting in someone that's kind of athletically fragile
we call
that
them
can do the
punters.
better spells. Yeah,
Like
yeah, it's a kicker.
yeah, I mean, outside of a few players throughout history, most kickers and punters aren't, these incredible specimens of athleticism. They
Except for
don't
their
need,
legs.
yeah, exactly, but they don't need to be. That's not their friggin' job. And there are times where you see one go and try and make a tackle, and they get lit up, and you just go, "Why'd you do that?"
He's doing his best.
Yeah, I mean, but it almost looks like me trying to make a tackle. It just wouldn't go well.
Yeah, but it'd be fun to watch.
Not, no, it really is. No one would enjoy that. No one would.
I would enjoy that as long as you can get to a cleric right after. Ooh, and thinking about getting to a cleric, like for the personal trainers and whatnot,
Sure.
just having like the fifth edition paladin's ability of lay on hands
Yeah.
that can later remove exhaustion.
I don't think the lay on hands ever gets to
Or
move
is
exhaustion.
that? Oh, I'm thinking 3-5 in Pathfinder. That's my
Yeah.
bad.
No, no. Like you don't get that in 3.5 at all. If you want to remove exhaustion, that is just greater restoration.
Hmm.
I
'Cause I know
wouldn't
in
know because
Pathfinder
I
you can
played a barbarian.
sacrifice. In Pathfinder, you can sacrifice a certain amount of points of your lay on hands to cure a condition instead.
Ah,
Uh,
that would be great if paladins could, but I understand why they can't.
yeah, but like thinking about that, like removing just the exhausted condition,
Sure.
even for like not during the game, but with all of the travel, and also with all of the travel, teleport.
There you go.
You would
Now,
you would
now that
remove that thing that a lot of professional sports organizations are really putting science and effort into now, which is figuring out like what's the best way to get our athletes the right amount of sleep so that
would
they're ready for this game.
and that would really take a huge chunk out of the home field advantage because the
Mm-hmm.
home field advantage isn't just about the crowd, it's about the travel, it's about sleeping in an unfamiliar bed, it's
Mm-hmm.
about the actual toll that can take on your body. And if it's just we just teleport to the arena, a little bit before warm-ups.
Yeah.
And here's the next thing I want to go on with this. So far we've just been talking about how magic as via a D&D or a Pathfinder system would
Mm-hmm.
affect things. But kind of the other thing I want to ask and what I kind of want to talk about, what game systems or what features in game systems do we feel like there kind of is a representation of in professional sports? Like, I'm meaning, for example, think about like the barbarian's rage ability, where
Mm-hmm.
they get the advantage on those strength checks. They're harder to bring down. And for things like that, I think of a player like a Marshawn Lynch, who you
Yes.
talk about when he gets into beast mode, like when he's just in that zone. Like you think about that famous run against the Saints, where he
Mm-hmm.
broke every tackle in the division to go on and make one of the greatest touchdown runs ever. Which
Right.
and then the only guy who came close to making a touchdown run that good was Marshawn Lynch. When a few years later, down in Arizona,
Yeah.
he would do the exact same thing to the Cardinals. Now, you could almost argue on that he was just in this focused rage and like I could equate that to a barbarian having the improved dexterity for that the level 2 ability, all the strength checks as he's just tossing
And
fools aside.
yeah, I totally see that. One that I could see going for, and we're gonna talk about a lot of Seahawks because that's just what's gonna happen.
It's
But
tis the season.
but you've definitely seen in footage of Russell Wilson when he's dodging in the pocket that sometimes you can see him talking to himself,
Yeah.
and I equate that to the Blade Singer's Blade song
Okay.
because when he starts doing that, +2 to his AC, he's dodging like a motherfucker. Like,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Now going to, and this is a game system I've brought up on the stream multiple times. DC Heroes with Mayfair
Hmm.
Games that had the hero point system where you can burn the equivalent of experience points to increase your abilities in crucial moments. And not that there's an actual real life equivalent of experience points, but I kind of wonder if that equates in a way, like if you were trying to make a one shot that it's like, oh, we're doing a football game or a basketball game or whatever the sport, using that system, like those hero points that can represent those big moments.
Yeah.
That's that fourth quarter drive when you're down by
Hmm.
5 and only a touchdown can
Well,
win the
and
game.
that's a thing that a lot of sportscasters, just watching this last stretch of NBA playoffs and into the finals,
Mhm.
is that's a thing that now getting into his like later years of his career, LeBron James does kind of that,
Sure.
where he like it's visible there are times when he does not play as hard because he knows his body isn't 20 anymore.
Exactly. So he's kind of got
Uh
to save it for those moments.
yeah, and so he in a way he does kind of do that where like he's storing up that experience for that fast break burst when he needs to run over somebody while going for that crucial dunk.
Or when he needs to streak down the court and make a block from behind in one of the
Yeah.
greatest moments I've seen in a finale. That
Oh,
block,
one of those
legendary.
beautiful chase down blocks.
Just,
They're so satisfying.
I'll take your word for it. As
Mhm.
somebody who can barely block a drain. I'll have to take
Well,
your word for it.
oh no, I almost never got to do those in real life. I am not a tall man, but I did like all growing up, and actually I just talked with my dad about this a
Mhm.
little bit ago. Well, a little bit ago, a couple days. Anyway, uh
Sure.
that he as a coach and as a parent, he did not set me up for basketball success because I am point guard sized.
Mhm.
And growing up, he would because he was my coach forever because he's that dad.
Sure.
Uh, and he would constantly coach me to play like a power forward.
Oh my.
I am not power forward size.
You really aren't. No.
Looking at the size of both of my parents, my genetics say I was never going to be close to power forward size.
He was just
But
playing a
yet,
little dice, though, wasn't he? He's like, just in case.
just in case he gets tall out of nowhere, he's going to know how to box out.
Okay. Now, I can find a way where that ability comes in useful, right? We get the player like you, point guard size, all right, but no has all these power forward skills in large.
Yep, yep, it'd be perfect.
Exactly.
But
All of a
also
sudden,
with enlarge,
you're Shaq.
you'd be taller than Shag. Like even going from just me height, because doesn't enlarge uh,
It
in most
increases your
systems?
entire size rating. So you go from medium to large.
Yeah,
You could be like 20 feet tall.
yeah. Like I've seen in other systems, it says doubles the size specifically. That would make me 11 feet tall.
It'd be amazing.
that
Amazing.
would make me upwards of 11 feet tall, my dude.
Exactly. Yeah. And for the next minute, nobody's going to get a shot over you.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
For the next minute, I can know what it feels like to be Anthony Davis.
Sure. The next minute, you know what it feels
That
like to
man's
dunk.
wingspan.
So if magic did exist and it could be factored into sports and just for like a pickup game of some sort, and it would be cast on you. My question is, what is the first thing you would do and why is it dunking?
Ah, you know that's the first thing I do.
It's the first thing I would do.
It's the first thing most people would do because most people could never do that.
And we all want to dunk. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is my side PSA. I don't care who you are. If you've ever watched basketball in your life, or at least have a vague awareness of what it is, I don't
Hmm.
know if I believe you. if you tell me, no, I have no desire to ever dunk. I don't believe you.
I mean, there
I
are
don't.
some people that are huge fans of Steph Curry, and they would much rather make that like almost looking effortless half court shot over dunking.
You know,
I have heard of a few people like that.
and you know why they say that? Because they know there's a possibility they could make that half court shot, but they can't dunk.
So that's true.
Like, you give me a bucket of 100 basketballs, there's a chance one of those is going to go in from half court. There's a chance. I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm not saying it's a bad one.
You know, it's there.
I can throw a basketball that far. I know that. You give me 100 chances, I guarantee you I can't dunk. I'm not going to suddenly figure out how to jump higher with 100 chances. In fact, I'm just going to get lower over time.
Right?
So I think that's why they say it. It's like, no, 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 I'd rather be able to do that. I'm like, yeah, because there's a chance of
It's
it.
because you could.
Yeah. That'd be like me saying I would much rather, drive a sports car than fly a jet. Well,
Absolutely not.
well, yeah, exactly. There are companies where you can rent high-end cars. It's like by the hour, and some of them are
Yeah,
just on like big open lots where you just drive it around. There's a possibility of me doing that. There's no possibility anybody's going to put me in the cockpit of a jet, because if they did, well, actually, the jet wouldn't go anywhere because I wouldn't have any idea what the hell to do.
I don't know. You could play Flight Simulator a little bit beforehand.
I mean, that's accurate. That is accurate. I could. I don't know how much good that would do me, but I would try.
I've I've heard that it's great actually.
Yeah, but I tried Flight Simulator way back in the day, like way back,
Oh
and
yeah.
I just didn't have the patience to try.
Yep. Oh, Flight Simulator. Good times crashing way too much.
Yep, yep. That's all I
Uh
did.
Now we've mostly talked about football
Yes,
and basketball because they are our favorite sports.
true.
But there's one sport that we're both fond of that we have completely left out of the conversation so far.
Cricket.
I do not consider cricket a proper sport. I consider it a skill competition
Okay,
because
because
I don't consider anything a sport that you can play in church clothes.
I mean, while I will give you that, I will submit two things. Now, I don't know anything about cricket. However, they're aside from a few little bits, I do know they break for tea at tea time. And
Yes.
I respect any sport that it's like, yo, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna have a little something to sip on, and we're gonna have a snack. I respect the hell out of that because I like food.
Oh, I fully support snack breaks.
Yeah, yeah. And
But
and apparently, like, for the different ways you can throw or pitch the ball, apparently someone having a wicked googly is a real thing. I don't know what it is, but any game where an announcer can mention a wicked googly with a straight ass face, I'm in.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Uh I personally I consider it a skill competition.
Okay.
Uh because like and that's not to say that like it's lower than a sport. I just
No.
think it's different.
Sure.
Much like with something like bowling, which is I definitely consider a skill competition. Also golf.
No,
I
no, no.
consider a skill competition over a sport.
And that's fair. And I hear you, because I'm going to equate this to something else. Like go with me. The entire world of hip hop, I've always felt that it's been done a disservice to be put as a genre of music, because I feel like it's different and, in a way, more than that. It's
Well, yeah, because there is more to hip hop than just
activism,
the
it's
music.
poetry, it's spoken word. And to me, the idea of, when you think about just quote music, that's so much put in like composition. Don't even get me started on pop. That's its own friggin' thing that I don't know that really falls in the realm of music as it is. But just when I think of a lot of the bases of music and going into music theory, like what creates
Mm-hmm.
that structure, hip hop isn't a part of that. It's its own thing. And I hear you on the skill competition thing. I'm like, am I
Yeah.
saying it makes it less? Absolutely not.
No.
What I am saying is that Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart would have no idea what to do with something like "fuck the police."
Yeah, he get toe up from the flow up.
Yeah.
Uh
So like these are their own things. Now NWA and Mozart, we're talking about geniuses in their own right. Very different things.
Very different geniuses.
Yeah.
So but what I was saying
Yes.
before we got off on that tangent, which
Yeah.
I think we could do entire shows, like we could do weeks of shows on just on hip hop, as it relates to the rest of music. But
Yes.
anyway, like Sugar Hill Gang, yo, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, yo. Uh, but what I was saying was professional wrestling, my dude.
Yes.
All the amazingness that could
That's
go into professional wrestling.
that's where it needs to be. Think
Like,
about the spells you could have as your finishers.
and also like even as like you spend almost your entire life just being a good athletic competitor,
Yes.
just making yourself big and learning how to do the
Yes.
complicated maneuvers that go into professional wrestling. You add just like a dip, like in 5th edition you could just take a feat to get a couple cantrips.
Yeah, magic
You
initiate.
just get prestidigitation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You make just some extra what looks like flames happen during any of your moves.
Mhm.
Yo,
So no, I think that's glorious. I would. Oh man, all the things you could do is all sorts of different spells. Even a lot of the low level stuff. I'd love to see like friggin' blink get used in pro wrestling. Like the chance to all of a sudden go to the ethereal plane, pop out, do some other stuff. Could you just imagine the idea of someone casts blink, right? They pop out of existence. So in those few seconds, they run, they clamber up to the top rope, they jump off, and as they come back into existence, there they are reappearing
they
midair.
blink back with the
Oh,
people's elbow.
okay, we're talking about elbows here, and I tell you something. The people's elbow, for all that it is at best the second best elbow out there.
All right, give it
Because
to
you
us.
all know who's got the greatest elbow of all time. I'm telling you, coming down from the top rope, it was the Macho Man. I don't want to hear anybody else talking about elbows. Dig it! I'm telling you,
This is why we love you. This right here.
because I do a Macho Man impression sometimes.
Oh my god. But just imagining all the different things you can do in professional wrestling with magic, like with Blink and with Misty Step, all the different things that they already do just with lights and production.
How
So to make
how
the Undertaker
great!
teleport around,
Ooh, yes,
and
yes.
then for him to actually teleport around,
Well, I mean, how great
oh,
would the '80s in particular have been just
oh,
with cantrips? Because you're talking to me like the '80s era of pro wrestling. That was really when it was kind of at its most fun and fantastical. And I mean, there are some real misses in there. I'm not going to act like everything of that whole '80s era was great.
yeah,
There's some stuff you go back and you rewatch it. Ooh, that was terrible.
yeah,
But you got into the attitude era where it got more gritty. It was almost like they decided, Zack Snyder needed to be in charge of pro wrestling for a while. And the man does some things well, but not so on others. And then kind of out of that, there was a lot of the breaking of the fourth wall because, well, the internet is what it is. Everyone
yeah,
knows so much behind the scenes stuff. But going back particularly to the 80s where you had these larger than life characters, I think
yeah,
that's the era where I would love to see. Yeah, granted, you're not going to be going back in time because even in D&D there aren't spells that do that. But if you had a promotion that specifically was trying to recapture that feel,
hmm.
how amazing would magic be within that?
I mean, just imagining what Ric Flair would do with minor illusion.
Oh, it'd be phenomenal. It'd be absolutely friggin' incredible.
I mean, and also, you could easily lesser and greater restoration away all of the ridiculous amounts of cocaine.
This is true. This is very true. Here's the one I wanna throw out there to you, right? We go not minor illusion, we go major illusion
Mhm.
for a run-in. Imagine a heel using major illusion to make it look like their opponent's tag team partner runs in, hits them, they drop down, disqualification, win the match, win the match.
Mhm.
Escape with the title via major illusion.
Dude, and just think about like have all the different things that currently happen with valets, with the teams, with just
Yeah.
having people like there at the apron, like, and then having everyone there that's like not in the match, but like casting even just these minor spells. Like there was a match just a couple weeks ago, uh, where like the entire Mysterio family was outside the steel cage watching this match happen. Uh, and they're just there like yelling and cheering and shouting. But imagine if they could just throw a little something in there, a small like trip with a mage hand.
There you go.
Like that would be huge. Your crew behind you would be impossibly important.
Or like a druid cantrip, like a thorn whip to wrap around their ankle and pull them to the ground.
Exactly. And like you could also have then these big title matches of athletics versus magic
Okay.
in professional wrestling, because you have someone that isn't really looking that physically capable, but they can cast all the different buff spells, and then it becomes like, can you keep up the buff spells long enough to get the pinfall?
Okay. Well, so okay, we got a few more of these under. I want to go to, and I know you were just saving this one for last. Your favorite NASCAR. Like, how would that factor?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
Well, you could easily use like what is it? Like I can't remember what's the name of the spell, but it's a very relatively low level mind altering,
Mhm.
or even just the cast of command in
Sure.
NASCAR.
It's turn
Turn
right.
right.
Yep. Well, but those, you can't use spells that would cause someone to put themselves in danger.
That's true.
So you would have to tell them like turn on to the like there's that. And this actually I said it as a joke, but now they're
Hmm.
already saying it. It is kind of interesting. You do like a command spell, and if it worked, you could be like pull into pit row. They don't even make
Yeah.
a pit stop, right? But they pull in, and now you're going ahead of them on it.
Hmm.
You know, I'd say cast feeble mind, but I feel like that's what gets cast on you as you watch something go in a circle 500 times.
I
Different
agree.
strokes for different folks. I can't do it, but
Yeah.
okay, but then this driving for that long is an actual test of endurance. Like, I won't say it doesn't take any actual skills
Yeah.
because
So then a restoration spell for
that's where I was
against
going.
fatigue.
Greater
Yeah.
restoration. So, perchance, maybe there are ways that magic can
Also,
influence NASCAR.
think about in NASCAR.
Yep.
Think about just the mending cantrip.
Oh, sure. Oh
Yeah.
man, all of a sudden you have a blowout, and that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Mend it. You could limp your
Depending on how
way.
quickly you can cast.
Oh man,
Yeah. That would be huge.
I would watch NASCAR with magic. I
Yeah.
would watch the hell out of that.
Also, because you can cast it on inanimate objects depending
Yep.
on the system.
Yep.
Levitate.
Yeah, but levitate doesn't give you forward momentum.
Well, no, no, no. You just levitate someone else for a bit.
Ah!
And so their car just kind of. Son of a. Well.
That's marvelous, and I'm for it. I don't know how we make this happen, but I want I want NASCAR with magic now.
Yeah.
I would watch this.
I'd be kind of into it. I'm already toying with like starting to try and get into NASCAR just because they've been like as a company and as an organization, they've been really good in the last couple of years with human rights issues.
Okay. All my jokes about NASCAR aside, I do give them a lot of credit for that, where they've
Yeah.
actually been way ahead of the curve of
Yeah.
like I would have thought they'd have been the last organization on some things.
Hmm.
And there were some items like banning of the Confederate flag where they're like,
Yeah.
no, we're not down with that anymore. I'm going, oh, okay.
Yeah. Like that one thing in general surprised the hell out of me, and I was like,
You and me both.
maybe I should be down for NASCAR now.
Exactly. You're like, maybe I care.
Like, shit,
Maybe
do I take back all those left turn jokes?
I know. Well, or shit, like everything that happened with Bubba Wallace and the
Mm.
investigation of
Mm-hmm.
that. Now, all that said, them being like, oh, nope, that noose was there beforehand. I'm like, still a problem.
Yeah.
Still a problem. Different
Yeah.
problem altogether. But when they were like, oh no, that wasn't put there because of him. That's just always what that rope pull has been. Okay,
It's like,
that's still a problem,
mm,
guys. But it's a
yeah.
different one. Like that's
It's
that
like that's
yeah, that's like an
uh
overall, hey, we need to, look at the culture here overall and adjust that. But the
that's a
fact that they took it
that's a level 3 spell slot problem rather than a level 8.
exactly, the fact that they investigated it, took it seriously, and
Mm.
that you had many other drivers stepping up, standing with Wallace, being like, hey, look, if this was done because of him, that's messed up. We're not okay with that.
Mhm.
So yeah, like I'm with you on that. For all the jokes I like to make about left turns and all
Mm.
that, as an organization, they've been getting some things right.
Yeah. And so if they add magic,
Man, I'd be so in.
when
I
just
would be all
think
about it.
about I just realized we talked about haste
Yes.
for a bunch of different sports. But what about the inverse of haste? What about the slow spell?
I mean, isn't the slow spell in the NFL just Philip Rivers? Like that's just what I imagine.
No. The slow spell is Philip Rivers after he's been hit twice.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, I'm not a Rivers fan. Well, I can't say it. He's helped me to more than one fantasy football playoffs. I'll say
Yeah.
that because all he does is throw for 4,500 yards a
Yeah.
season, 35 touchdowns, and no one cares. But nothing makes me enjoy watching him more than on the rare occasion when that friggin' galoot decides to take off and run.
Uh can you even call it run?
No, no, you can't. He just
It's more of a tromp.
he galumps.
Yes, he galumps.
Trundles, I guess is the term.
Yeah, because like I've been, like I was telling you before we started recording, like
Yeah,
I'm a Ladainian Tomlinson fan
sure.
from forever ago, so
Yes.
that's why I still watch the Chargers. And shout out to Justin Herbert. A lot of people are giving him flack, but he is an amazing, like brand new, fresh quarterback that's jumping in because of injuries, and he's doing so much better than Philip Rivers for all of his arm. Because Herbert can take a hit and play the same.
Oh, Justin Herbert will always have a spot of hate for me because watching my Washington Huskies try and
Yep.
play, yeah.
Yep. That's it's
But
hard to forget that he was a duck. But
yeah, like I said, because I'm part of Minshew mania, man. I like Gardner
mm,
Minshew a lot, but part of that is even though he played at Wazoo, it ain't like he won an Apple Cup. Ain't like that happened.
you're not wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, people can, want to make all the jokes about, Jake not really taking the next step and making it into the NFL and all that. But
Mhm.
you know what? He never found out what it was like to lose an Apple Cup. So, but no, I'm part of Minshew Mania. I want him to be successful in
Oh yeah,
Jacksonville. I have a little harder time swallowing it with Herbert because,
yeah.
but
But
no,
he's
he is
real good.
he's great, and I think he's going to be quite successful. I was slightly bummed to see that he supplanted Tyrod as the starter, only because
Yeah,
I've been a big Tyrod Taylor fan for a few years. I think he's
yeah.
underrated, but
And it is definitely weird for me as a longtime Chargers fan to watch all of this happen.
Sure.
because there's a huge amount of me that just wants to be happy that we'll have a quarterback that can take a hit.
Well, here's something I have to ask then. You as a Chargers fan, does it bother you at all? Like, how do you wrestle with yourself knowing that the Chargers are the only team Russell Wilson has never beat?
Uh, it makes me laugh because the way that the Chargers beat the Seahawks each year, um, they do the simplest thing that I don't know why other NFL teams haven't caught on to of how to beat the Seahawks, specifically their defense.
Mhm.
Because the Seahawks are awful at covering the flat.
Yeah.
And because the Chargers were so big on for the longest time of using their tight ends, because what you gonna do?
You're gonna throw to Antonio Gates is what you're gonna do.
Yeah, what you can't cover the man.
No.
Like, people talk about Gronk, but Antonio Gates though,
You couldn't cover Antonio Gates with a tarp.
absolutely not.
No.
And so it's just those simple like slant outs into the flat. That's all you need to do to plunk away at the Seahawks.
Just keep yeah, just keep hitting any underneath routes. They'll give you 5-7 yards at a time.
Yep. And
That's
that's
simple.
and that's also why teams have been able to come back against the Seahawks this season, is because
Play some friggin' defense, guys.
yeah,
I like I say, like I could do much better.
I mean, I was an outside linebacker and a strong safety in a corner, so
Sure.
covering the flat was only occasionally my job.
Right. But it was still sometimes your job.
It was only occasionally my job, and I didn't do it well. So I get it.
So I want to come back all the way to talking about magic in sports because I realized here's one of the last things we didn't discuss, but where it could be, I think, super
Mhm.
interesting in any sport. A spell like hallucinatory terrain.
Ooh, yeah.
Because
Ooh.
you control what the people you for some of those spells, it's the individual you cast it on because you can designate like something like the psychic attacks or
Yeah.
hallucinatory terrain. Everyone sees it, so that will be cool because the viewers would see what the opposing team was thinking they were seeing, but
Yeah.
whatever team cast it wouldn't be noticing it as much. And then would it be, do we have to open up to playing sports in different areas as opposed to just on the field? Or is that like a mind over matter thing to just try and get over it because the terrain looks like you're going to run smack into a brick wall, but you have to convince yourself that wall's not there?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that would be interesting because like so many coaches and players talk about the mind over matter
Yep.
for sports. But what if it's really, really prevalent, like a brick wall?
Yes.
Just imagining the heart attack that LeBron James would have when he's going full like a freight train down on the fast break, and there's just a tree.
This is really where the importance of the magic comes in is what comedy can we do with it?
Absolutely, it would just be hilarious. Also, All-Star weekend for the NBA, the
Also,
dunk contest.
dimension dunk.
Yes.
Like you put the hoop way up in the air, it's moving around now. Dimension dunk, they cast feather fall on you so you don't splatter when you hit the ground.
Right.
500 feet in the air, dimension dunk. Tell me you don't want to watch it.
That I 100% believe that is something that Kawhi Leonard would think of first.
Very possible.
Like, you're
Very
telling me
possible.
that the claw wouldn't first think to like, I'm a dunk way up there.
And you know what? You know what's great? One of my favorite things to think about this is if they were like bringing back stars from the past and they had the dimension dunk, you could do it. You could enter Tim Duncan in there and he'd still do a layup
He would. He absolutely would.
because the fundamentals of it, it's more likely to
Yep.
go in.
Because you'd have Tim Duncan, and he'd still just do a layup, but he would also Prestidigitation, probably like a smiley face on the backboard.
Either that, or he'd like prestidigitate anybody's handprints on there. He'd clean it on his way down.
He 100% would,
He would.
because Tim Duncan's a class act. He
He
would.
really is. Also,
Also, just thinking about
never got the credit he
prestidigitation.
deserved. Like he was
Oh
good.
yeah,
People don't like if you just look at his consistency over his entire career.
it's almost unbeatable for consistency.
Man, I loved Tim Duncan. I was also a big David Robinson fan, though.
Oh, absolutely.
I like those fundamental players.
Thinking about prestidigitation, uh, in the NBA,
Yes,
it would kind of shift up the towel guys and the scrubbers jobs a bit,
it would.
because it wouldn't take all of that like needing to try and run in real quick and get out the way. It'd just be like, boom.
So, last question on this is involving prestidigitation since we're on basketball.
Yep.
All right. Steph Curry pulls up from 25 feet out. He's going to shoot a three. All of a sudden, some opposing player, any player, doesn't matter. Prestidigitation, feel like a flash of light right in the eyes as he's about to shoot, and he misses. Is that a foul?
Personally, I don't. Specifically, Steph Curry. One, I do think that would be a foul.
Okay.
But two, because it's Steph Curry, and knowing that one of his earlier record-breaking seasons from his shot was done before he got LASIK,
Okay.
I don't think that would alter his shot.
You're not wrong.
I like.
No, we know it's genetic because of the famous clip of when he threw the ball over at his dad to try and punk him, and then his dad drained one from 30 feet out.
Yep. Well, like, for real, like, one of his record-breaking seasons was before he got LASIK, and he wasn't always wearing contacts.
That's fair.
So a lot of time he was just blurry, and I hope it goes in. Oh, it went in. All right.
So he used my technique of playing basketball. I just
Pretty
focused on it.
much.
He just had the luck feet, and I don't.
But yeah,
So
I
that's
do.
not true. He's a very talented athlete.
But I do think that the like doing the flash would be a foul.
Okay.
In the same vein of like hitting the arm to alter the shot.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Because
that was my last question.
Yeah.
That's all I wondered.
Because like if you're thinking about like in the vein of how the other rules operate, that'd still be a foul.
Okay, so that's foul, but not a flagrant. That's not going to be a
No.
flagrant. Okay,
No, because the flagrant, you've got to like hurt the person
sure.
or
And
like put the
that's
person in
harmful.
danger.
Okay, so like 6 of those and you can foul out, but you're not going to get thrown out of the game. You're not getting
Absolutely.
for it. Okay.
Unless it's not a flash but just a middle finger.
That's fair. Yeah, you can't. If,
That's a
if your
flagrant.
mage hand does a middle finger, now you're getting teed up.
Yep. That'd be
So
the weirdest thing to
that's
get
what
thrown
we-
out of a
that's what we
game
learned here,
for.
folks. What the spells you're using, you got to think about the potential consequences. And is it
Absolutely.
worth it?
I hope that all of this discussion that we had helps anyone that watches this that does try to put like a sporting event in their tabletop game.
Yeah,
I hope it helps.
exactly. Think about how those things can affect it, and enjoy that, and embrace it, and just turn the silliness up to 11. And I think it's one of those cases where, with like the rule of cool and the idea of fun,
Mhm.
whatever stupid idea your players come up with, it's probably better than the game you designed. Just to be honest, because they're gonna be thinking
Yep.
outside the box, and all they're doing is adding on to it, and roll with it and act like it was your idea the whole time. They're gonna love
Yep.
it.
So yeah, we've about hit our time. Although we could definitely talk about just sports forever.
Oh, and it will happen again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we love our sports.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe next week we'll talk about if wizard colleges were like American colleges. Actually, that, as funny and off the cuff as that was, I kind of want to do that.
Yes. You know what? Yeah. Let's talk about wizard schools versus actual schools and where that would be going in. Because let's face it, the most famous wizard schools that people know about right now, that was created by a reprehensible human being. So we're here to give you some new schooling, people.
Yep. So that means that we're going to National Lampoon's Magic College.
Yeah.
That's next week, so I guess tune in.
Please.
Uh, Thank you so much for being on this ride with us.
Yeah.
Always, catch us on Facebook, on the Instagrams, on YouTube. I will do my best to splice together last week's awful bad connection episode.
It was
But this
special.
this episode we didn't lose any connection, so it's good. But as always, love yourselves, be gentle with yourselves.
Yep.
It's rough
Ally is
out
a
here.
verb.
And go vote.
Please, yeah, vote. You have no excuse not to.
It's
Seriously,
go vote.
you're literally voting for people's lives right now.
Yeah.
Like all jokes aside, fucking vote.
But yeah, catch us next week, same time, same place. And I'm thinking about trying to put together a time where like either it's just me or it's both of us and some of the people in this show's community of just playing some games of Among Us for no reason because it's super fun.
Sounds delightful. Let's do
So
it.
yeah, we'll catch you next week. We'll hit up on Facebook about trying to get some game days together. But yeah, we love you and see you next week.
Later, y'all.